Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for the Black Blockchain Brunch. And this show's all about just talking a little bit more about issues in Web3 and kind of getting a little bit more of a hands on perspective. And so, after the news, I like to have this show just to kind of get a, a little bit more of a deep dive. I had a guest on today. Unfortunately, I think we had some technical difficulties, but they will be back very soon, and they will be a surprise guest for another time in the future. That said, what I do want to share today is actually a presentation I gave earlier this week, and it involves the risks inherent in decentralized finance. I wrote a chapter about this in my book, DeFi for the Diaspora. And I think it's very important to share with folks, really, because people may be interested in what DeFi is and what it's about, but then not really necessarily understand what the risks are. And, unfortunately, when it comes to crypto, it's really easy to make mistakes and you kind of make mistakes. And sometimes people get frustrated. But I think it's always good to know what those risks are and appreciate those risks before entering into this technology. So let me share this with you all and figure out how to do that in the meantime. Definitely kind of doing all this on the fly here, so bear with me. All right, so this is really the anti-fraud best practices for decentralized finance, but I think it is important to kind of talk about all of the risks that are inherent into DeFi, and glad to take this opportunity to do so with you all here and now. So you guys know me, but really the overview of all this is once again, all of the DeFi risk factors. And I'm really didn't even cover all them. But regardless, I want to touch on them today. And then the fraud risk factors in DeFi and a couple of best practices for you guys to keep in mind. So if you don't know what decentralized finance is, it's a trustless peer-to-peer system that eliminates the need for third-party intermediaries. DeFi is a growing subsector of blockchain that provides users with open access to financial products such as loans, interest-bearing accounts, as well as decentralized money markets, decentralized exchanges, decentralized derivatives, and decentralized insurance. So, if we look from a traditional financial perspective, historically, there has been a long-standing issue of discrimination, especially in the Black community here in the United States. You take that along with the hundreds of millions of unbanked people in Africa and other parts of the world. And this is why I feel decentralized finance is just an option, once again, to remove that discrimination from the financial system. Now, just getting into risk factors, we have what's called protocol risk, which, if you're looking at a given DeFi platform, this protocol risk can present itself as internal as well as external. So, from an internal standpoint, we're looking at smart contract risk. And a smart contract is an electronic agreement that has its rules and clauses governed by code. So essentially, a software developer puts together these smart contracts that operate kind of in an if then manner. So if a certain constraint is met, then another outcome will be produced. So internally, if this smart contract has not been coded properly, and an error arises, then that smart contract can fail and the DeFi platform or protocol will not operate as intended. However, on the flip side of this, from an external standpoint, this is a security risk because if hackers or some sort of malicious actor sees an error in this code, they can then use it as a way or means to exploit that protocol. So, governance risk is another risk where, very similar to as I discussed in my previous news story about Lido Finance and the issues with centralization, governance allows DeFi protocols and DeFi platforms to allow its community to put things up to a vote, thereby making it decentralized and taking the decision making outside of the hands of the developers or outside of the hands of the people who have the most money or funds on the platform. So, once again, governance allows for that voting mechanism. But if the proposals within the governance are made in such a way that it actually does allow decision making to go back to developers or back to the people who have the highest amount or most amount of funds on the platform, that becomes a risk of centralization. And so, governance risk really means that there needs to be very well thought out proposals that go before a vote of the community. So, market risk is just that, it's economic factors within financial markets that may have an impact on a decentralized protocol or its tokens or its representative token. So, uh, the cryptocurrency markets in particular are highly volatile, and this is where that risk presents itself. Regulatory risk, I've been covering this on my news program quite a bit, and that is the risk that regulators may either uh, regulate or ban uh, decentralized finance in a way that protocol, once again, will not be able to operate as previously intended. So that risk is out there. We're starting to see regulatory frameworks come into view, and this could have an impact on DeFi down the road. Now, the black swan event is a type of risk that um, is highly unlikely to happen, but at some point does happen. It doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, it has catastrophic and widespread consequences. And, however, in hindsight, looking back, that Black Swan event almost seems like it would have been obvious, after the fact once again. So, one of the best recent Black Swan events is this one right here, FTX and SBF. So, um, there you have it. There's your Black Swan event. Looking back, we would think that all that stuff that went down was completely obvious, but nonetheless, let's talk about fraud risk factors in DeFi. And now this is rug pulls. Rug pulls are kind of a general term really used throughout crypto and Web3 for any sort of fraudulent activity, but it's also very often used in DeFi. And it's just whenever there is a fraudulent exit out of a project. So, once again, this rug pull is a very general term, but more specifically, let's look at the types of rug pulls that are out there. You have the fake ICO or initial coin offering, fake stable coin, LP or liquidity pool drain, a smart contract rug pull, as well as a slow rug pull. So, fake initial coin offering. These happen when a token project has announced its use case or what that project will do, and they introduce the team behind it, whether they're anonymous or availed or doxed, or public, I guess is probably a better way to say it. And in this process, investors are whitelisted and allowed to receive a discount on tokens as the project aggressively promotes itself through various mediums. Then, once the project has, announced all these fake partnerships and a roadmap and project plan, and has gained all of this interest as well as funds, that's when the project takes off with people's money. So, looking at things on a timeline, an ICO happens at the beginning. So we're looking at the beginning of this timeline of a project that is fraudulent. They haven't even gotten out of the gate. They may not have even created any smart contracts, but they've raised money from the community. And, you know, not long thereafter, they've raised that money, they have left, which brings me to the example of DeFi 100, which was a project a few years back that was to cover the top 100 DeFi projects within the cryptocurrency market cap and provide analytics and so on and so forth. But when DeFi 100 raised all that money from its community, and people were left wondering, well, what's next here? And they woke up one day to find not so friendly message from the DeFi 100 team. And they called it the rebase, but it very clearly let folks know that they got scammed. So, like I said, not a very friendly message from the dev team there. They're just letting you know, hey, we scammed you and you can't do anything about it. They use different wording, and they also gave them a friendly goodbye, or not so friendly goodbye, excuse me. So that brings me to the fake stable coin. So you might be asking, what are stable coins? Stable coins are used to hedge market volatility and the market risk that I mentioned earlier. They're usually stable coins are usually dollar denominated, so they're fixed to a dollar at a time. However, fake stable coins are malicious projects where, a smart contract will be created that represents that stable coin. However, it hasn't been audited and, using the typical controls that other stable coins use out there. Why? Because once again, it's fake. It is fraudulent. And so that being the case, uh, I'd like to share another very interesting example, and that is of USDZ. USDZ, build itself as the next big thing in stable coins. And you could see here they had a roadshow where they went to different parts of the world to talk about what USDZ was and talk about all the members of the team who you can see. They put themselves out there very publicly. They had LinkedIn pages, they had video commercials and testimonials. And like I said, they got out on the road and had these road shows. They even offered a 10% premium for people who got involved on the pre-sale. So who wouldn't want an extra 10 cents on the dollar when they contributed to this project? And that's exactly what happened. However, after they had raised money and launched, USDZ and all of these actors were nowhere to be found. So it's very sad, but these things happen. And that's essentially why I want to present it to you guys. Be on the lookout for stuff like this. You want to know what sort of audit controls are in place at all times on a decentralized financial product or project or protocol. So moving on to the next type of fraud, we have the liquidity drain. So liquidity pools are prevalent in decentralized finance because they help facilitate trading by providing a source of funds and maintaining market stability, and to a certain extent, managing risk on a given platform. Liquidity pools are made up of typically two, sometimes more assets to once again make sure that there is smooth trading on a given decentralized exchange or automated market maker. However, when these liquidity pools are made for a given project, they are once again contributors to the DeFi project essentially pledge their assets into that liquidity pool to once again facilitate trading. However, the fraudulent team or developer creates a backdoor and subsequently will withdraw those coins from the liquidity pool, leaving essentially nothing left for investors and contributors to go back to. So, moving on to the next type of fraudulent risk factor in decentralized finance is that of smart contracts. So, smart contract rug pulls occur when a malicious project developer induces errors into the code of a smart contract intentionally in order to facilitate an exit of investor funds. So, I know I talked about smart contracts a little bit earlier. To give an example of a smart contract, you know, it can have two participants, and one participant will ask for a task to be done, whereas another participant will do that task. The person who is paying the other participant to do that task will essentially enter their money or funds onto the smart contract, where it will typically be held in a type of escrow until the task that is being asked to be done has been completed and thereby validated. Typically takes place by the use of what's called oracles. And once again, oracles validate the fact of something taking place. Regardless, what will happen with these smart contracts is the developer, once again, will create a backdoor that will allow them to maliciously and intentionally drain funds from a given DeFi protocol. So, soft rug pulls. So, all the ones that I discussed previous to now are considered hard rug pulls because they happen very quickly, right? Whereas soft rug pulls, they tend to occur in small batches where the DeFi team takes or steals money in very small batches over time while seemingly, continuing a legitimate going concern with that DeFi project. So, one example that comes to mind is that of Polywhale. Their price began to plummet after its team abandoned the project after months of talking about its project plans and all its partnerships that they wanted to create and do down the road. However, on a daily basis, the liquidity and the DeFi tokens were being drained by the team until they withdrew over $1 million and closed down shop and were seemingly never to be heard from again. So, that's how slow rug pulls work. They're not always immediate, where one day the funds are there, the next day you get a message on the website saying you got scammed. It can be very slow and methodical. So, what do we do in terms of best practices? Now, uh, it's important to know that decentralized financial protocols are unregistered and they're unregistered platforms. So, to a certain extent, I was very much corrected that it's not so much they're unregulated, they're unregistered. So, they haven't registered with the SEC. I think to a certain extent that kind of goes with the decentralization, but once again, without a strong regulatory framework, we can't say one way or another. So in this case, if you do choose to use a decentralized financial platform in light of all of the risks that I just laid out for you, it's very much important to diversify. Now, once again, none of what I'm putting forward is financial advice. You know, what I'm trying to do is provide information in terms of what these risks are, and like many financial vehicles out there, it's important to diversify so you don't put all your eggs in one basket, because you never know when something will get hacked or when the team may just steal your money. So that's why it's important to diversify. Also, it's important to engage with team members and the community on a regular basis to know what's going on, to know if anyone in the community is saying, "Oh, hey, a soft rug pull is taking place," or "Hey, um, we don't we have questions in terms of how the smart contracts are audited." You want to not just place your money with a DeFi platform and forget about it. You want to know what's going on just behind the scenes, but beside just looking at the price of what the particular assets on the protocol may be on a given basis. Also, engage with the developers and the team members. Know who these people are. Get a sense of who they are, where they live. Get whatever information about themselves that they will avail to you, because you always want to use that as clues down the line if something bad should happen. If something good should happen, then hopefully you make some good friends along the way. I mean, that's what these decentralized financial communities are all about. Is even though it is a trustless environment, is having trust in the people who are doing these things. When things go well, and when things go bad, at least being able to have some degree of tabs on these folks. Also, to whatever extent possible, analyze the audit controls that are present on that DeFi platform. How are the smart contracts audited? Are they using a third party independent source to do that auditing? Have they received opinions from more than one independent third party source? Or are they just doing it themselves? You can also use blockchain explorers to inspect smart contracts on your own. So if you're not getting those answers from an independent third party and you want to take a look and understand where the location of these smart contracts are, you can use a blockchain explorer in order to do that. Also, be sure to check independent sources. And you might be wondering, well, what does that mean exactly? That could be things like Dex Screener and DeFi Llama and Dex tools. There are certain websites out there that list token information, but they may not necessarily be independent because of certain things like ads and who the parent company of those websites may be. Uh, you know, like I said, Dex Screener, Dex Tools, those are pretty independent sources of decentralized financial information. So, check several sources once again. Now, with AI really beginning to emerge, you can use AI as a tool to examine what may be going on a DeFi project. Now, um, is DeFi, or excuse me, is AI the end all be all? And is it going to give you a safe way to audit projects in the DeFi space? Absolutely not. It is just a tool. Like at the end of the day, would you prefer to have use AI as a tool to provide you with an indication that something may be wrong with a DeFi platform rather than not have it at all? I would prefer to use it as a tool, even though, some iterations of ChatGPT might not have all the most up to date information. But if it is able to detect a flaw in a smart contract, I would prefer to use it and have it rather than not have it. So, you have it. There is some of the risks that are inherent into DeFi projects. So sorry that my guest was not able to join us today, but at the same time, I'm glad to share some of this knowledge with you guys. It's not the most fun or glamorous, but what's worse is actually losing your money in DeFi, and I can testify from firsthand knowledge that is not fun. And I'm happy to share this information in terms of risk factors with you so that you can understand and appreciate the risk and make a decision whether or not DeFi is right for you. So, with that, I hope you've enjoyed everything. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and I will see you very soon on the next edition of the Black Blockchain Brunch. Take care, stay safe.